If you have an info product offer or an online business, coaching, consulting, or an agency, I'm going to break down to you exactly what you actually need to scale past, 100K, 200K months, because I'm seeing one of the biggest things that are missing inside a team is a manager that actually breaks down and knows how to pull the right levers in order to actually scale revenue. So I'm going to break it down onto a whiteboard that I have right here, and we're going to go into exactly how to do this through sales management, through systems, and through the metrics that you're going to be tracking. Okay, so today, guide to sales management, right? Today we will be going through over the data, statistics, how to look at it, and make the right moves to strategic moves based on data, actual hard facts that you can use to make money right off the bat, right? It's going to take a lot of problem solving, a lot of things. You can see I have my calculator on the side here because we're going to be doing some math, but your mind needs to work like this if you actually want to run a successful offer, right? Whether it be fitness, coaching, anything in between, like consulting, you name it. This will actually apply to you. What we'll do today then is actually go through first what tools you will need to know on the side. So EODs, that's number one. So EODs, end of day forms, these are for the closers, these are for the setters. Next thing you probably need to know would be the sales form. Have that on the side. Make sure that you know what's happening from each call to each call. So from EODs, what this actually splits up into is you need to make sure that you know a couple things from this alone. So first, I'd split it up into your capacity. So capacity in terms of the number of calls booked to the number of total slots that you have. Okay, so total slots, this is everything. You need to know this because you need to know if you're underutilizing reps. Usually, if you're at a 50%, right? So you have like 200 slots open, and then like 100 of those are being filled. So for certain that, okay, 50% is probably not the best, right? You probably want to be at anywhere from like 75%. Anything above this, you got to make sure you're careful because closers might be overbooked. That's when like, okay, what happens if a closer takes a holiday or something like that happens, then you might be overbooked. You might be at 110%. So you never want to do that because, your team is not at the size it should be. So then we know that, okay, at least hire on a new closer so that we have more availability on that. That's going to be very important. Second thing that you'll need to know from EODs is obviously the show rate, right? So people that show up on the call versus people that are booked on the calendar. So showed versus no show. This is going to be very important. Typically people are at, 30 to 40%. Ideally, you want to be at anywhere from 65% above. So anything above that, it's good, but 65% and above is usually going to be at the threshold at what you want to be at. If you're anything above that, then it's not going to be much things to kind of consider here. But let's say you're operating from a 65% show rate. Your slot is utilized at 75%. Obviously this would matter as well. You should know this number as long as I let you know. I should be able to kick you in your sleep and this number. So show rate and capacity. Next thing, obviously the close rate. So close rate, these are the top three things I'd say. We're going to boil this down into more specific details. But close rate, okay, let's say you have a team of three, right? Top ones, you making like 65%, or let's say 75%. I've actually seen this. You have an A player, 75% close rate. You probably want to have this person as the team lead. So anywhere from like management, anything like that. So might not be able to take as many calls as you'd like them to, right? If these closers are like, average 30%, 25%, right? Then you want to make sure that this slot is filled out to the max. Let's say they're able to take 15, then you want 15 out of those 15 slots on their calendar to be booked fully. Utilize this first, go into GHO, go into close, and make sure that the priority is high for this before you make the moves for this, right? We're not playing based on fairness. We want to make money here. This is purely based on statistics. So close rate is another big thing. Show rate, you want to make sure that to increase show rate real quick, I want to run over this before we go into anything else. Show rate, to get it above 65%, first thing you want to go into really in depth, is making sure that the text and auto and email sequences are set up. A lot of people don't have this, or if they do, they have too much, right? So I see a lot of additive measures in this, and what you see is a lot of overwhelmingness for the lead, and they're getting spammed with too many things. You want to make sure that you have it start first. It's better to start off very slow, very close, and then add on one thing at a time. So make sure that is good. And then until then, right, text messages like anywhere from like a day before, right when they book on, a day before, like maybe like 6 hours before, an hour before, and like 5 minutes, right? Make sure that they are reminded. If they're not, it might not be the case that they're not interested, but actually that they just completely forgot, right? So make sure that text emails are coming out. Emails are coming out. You want to make sure that text points are actually up. Sometimes people run out of this. You want to make sure that this is all good to set so that every single person has text ready to go. And emails as well, right? Emails, same thing. So once you get that good, you want to then move on to things such as speed to lead dialing, speed to lead. I have all this room, but I'm using up the space here. So speed to lead, making sure that you dial within a 5-minute window, right? Closers are just saying, hey, what's up? Saw that you booked on my calendar. Let me know if you need anything before now and then to make our call more productive. And we can go into more details later on, right? Looking forward to our call on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Something like that. Something super simple. Something else that you want to make sure that you have is make sure that you're still engaging. Engagement SMS. So somebody to be there to actually carry on the conversation over text message if possible. So if they're responsive, keep them going. Make sure that you have all the data that you need to know. Keep them engaged so that by the time they're gone on, all the sales assets are showed out to them. They have exactly what to expect, and it's top of mind as well, right? So this is the whole point of engagement SMS. These three things alone have taken my offer from 25% to all the way up to 65% and up. So it's fluctuating around this point. But like I said, anything from 65% up is ideal. You don't really got to focus too much on show rate once you're at this number. But let's say you have all three things of these set. Remember, close rate, you want to put it toward the top. Whoever who has the most close rate, you're slot utilizing them to the maximum capacity. From there, that's all good. And anything else that you need to know, right? So for sales form, obviously you're going to need to know the time per call. Time per call is going to be very important because, okay, let's say you have like about average of 45 minutes per call. Then you want to make sure that each one of these people, let's say you're at a 30% show up right now. This is going to be an easy way to make sure that you're maximizing on those 30% that show up and your calendar is optimized. So let's say you want to book in intervals of 30 minutes each then, right? 45-minute calls. And obviously the point is here to make sure that if you're at a 30% show rate, only one of three of these show up, right? Let's say it goes over 45 minutes and this one shows up and this one shows up as well. Just a simple, call or text just saying, hey, my meeting is going to run over. Can we just postpone it just like 30 minutes, 40 minutes? I'll join the Zoom call as soon as I'm ready. Something like that. Usually they'll be fine with that. So make sure that if you're at a 30% show rate, you're optimizing it each time, right? You're going to save a lot of time. You're going to save a lot of energy, especially on these calls where if you're at a 30% show up rate, then your calendar slots are optimized for this. So once you're good on that, I think next thing we'll move on to is actually seeing the full statistics of what you need instead of just these basics. So I covered capacity, show rate, close rate, how to optimize those, how to approach those, and making sure that you know the time per call so that you can really see what slots you should be breaking it up into. So that'll be what it looks like. So you can probably tell by now from what I've actually broken down already that this is how your brain should work if you were to manage and scale a team, right? As a business owner, you need to know the players, their efficiencies, the metrics, in order to actually play the right tactics, just like if you were a general in a war, right? So as a business owner, these skills are vital and you probably already have them, but applying them to the sales side is a little bit of a different sense. So if you can't do it, make sure that you have somebody on the team who you can train to do this, because these metrics, if you stay on top of them, then that's how you actually can really see what can predictably scale this offer. So follow along. I'll break it into a little bit more of a holistic view for you as an owner as well, taking a look at the marketing side and how that plays into how you can transfer more sales through your funnel, and so on. Okay, so let's take a holistic view of what this should look like as a sales manager, the numbers, everything in total, with the funnel included. So let's say you have a funnel, right? Obviously leads come in. So from your CRM, obviously, CRM, leads come in. And this is funneled into a, let's just put the calculator over here, a funnel right here, all right? From the top, obviously you have things, different types of leads, like opt-ins, then you got applications, and then you have like book calls, right? Booked. So when taking a look at this, obviously you want to know the metrics of each one, where it's going, and from there, it'll be kind of split up into, from this funnel right here, it'll be split down into things like outbound, right? Where they coming from outbound, or they coming from like discovery, or going into like a sales call. So that's what you should be taking a look at, and everything kind of funnels back up, and everything that you need to know should be kind of broken down into the numbers, such as, you know, lead to close, lead to set first, which should be at like a number anywhere from like 15 to 25%, right? Ideally, that's what we're kind of taking a look at. But from here, 15 to 25%, you go down into, you know, your set to close, set to close. Let's actually do set to show first, and then pass through rate, right? How many leads are getting passed through in each category. Lead to close, and then set to close. So all of these numbers are things that you should be knowing, not from the top of your head, but have something at least to track this, right? Because from these numbers, you can then kind of split it down into a tree and figure out, okay, from these leads that are coming in, you have, you know, those outbounds, like I mentioned, you have the triage, and then you have the sales call. So where's each one going, and what's the pass-through rate for each one? Because we want to be pushing each one through, you know, outbounds. How many can we convert to triages? How many of these can we actually convert to sales calls? So the pass-through rate, the push-through rate should be optimized as much as possible here. Now, everything in terms of that, let's say you have a product where it's, let's just do something higher ticket. We won't do anything like 4 to 5K. We'll go 15K here. 15K ticket price, and the actual average cash collected, average CC, is, let's say 10K here to make it easy. But this should actually be what it looks like, 10K. And then what else you should know from this note data is the close rate. Close rate should be, you know, let's say 25%. It's the norm, and a show rate of 65%, like I mentioned earlier. So having all of this, you should, you know, ideally have it on a calendar here, because based on these numbers right here, which you've collected, obviously, you can then figure out, okay, how many sales calls are needed with the current close rate, and then how many calls do I need on the calendar with the current show rate. So we can kind of calculate it right here. So we know that with the current show rate, we need at least, you know, 60 calls a month. Calls taken per month, actually, calls taken. Now this is based on the show rate, right? 65% should be anywhere, multiply 0.56, should be a 92 booked per month. right? And this is everything that you want to take a look at, because let's say you want this 100K. Let's actually do 150K per month. 150K per month. You want to obviously split it down into new cash collected. So let's say 100K new cash collected, and then 50K worth of recurring. And we won't take a look at recurring. This will be crossed out for now. But let's actually take a look at this 100K. Where should this 100K come from? So if we take a look at it, how many calls do we need, or how many sales do we need for this 100K? We would need, because it's average cash collected of 10K, we would need 10 of these. Is that right? Yes. 10 sales of these to reach 100K, average cash collected of 10K. Now, where are these 10 sales coming from? You need to make sure that you know this. In terms of actually breaking it down now, you know that it's 100K, or to hit 100K months, then you need 92 booked on the calendar. 92, right? From these 92, it's broken down into, like I said, objections or outbound, discoveries, that's triage, and then sales calls. So where are those actually coming from? I mean, paid advertisements. Paid advertisements, you want to have some's coming from the opt-in, like I mentioned, and then the other ones as like outbound. So paid advertisements, outbound, opt-ins, we want to know the metrics for this. Paid advertisements, let's say for 92, you want coming from 45, around half of this. And then that means the rest would be, let's come up with 5, 47. Let's do 22 right here, and then 21. That is, oh my gosh. Keep messing up this right here. So 23 and 24, apologies, yeah. 23 and then 24. So, okay, with the paid advertisements, right, 45. Paid advertisements, what's actually the cost of that? Well, we know off the top that coming in, let's say from the top of the funnel here, there's like 1,000 coming in. 1,000, we know that we need to funnel down this into at least 92, which, or 9.2% of this should be reached down to get that 92 number, right? This is a little bit low click rate or just conversion rate from ads, but we're not really going to focus on marketing. Let's say this is, which I've seen this be the case for companies before, where their conversion rates from ads to actually leads are on the lower side. So let's actually figure out how to optimize it from here. How can we make the most of this 9.2? So this is 92. Let's say ads per lead are, $10 each. That would mean that's like 10K. 10K for ad spend. And then, if we're aiming for that 100K, then that means it is about 10K or 10x ROAS, which is actually very, very good. But going from here, this is realistically what you can do, because you can figure out exactly where these leads are coming from. All right, well, so with that info right there, that's just coming from paid applications, right? So paid apps, and then going into it, how is it going into outbounds, and then versus triages? So based on this, kind of messed this up a second ago, outbounds, opt-ins, triages. Okay, sounds good. So paid apps, triages, outbounds. We need all of these numbers to actually match the 92 in order to get this to convert to 100K based on our statistics right here, right? So this is where these numbers come in a lot of handy, right? So lead to set, what does that look like? That applies to triage. So if you're taking a look at that 25% lead to set, like I mentioned, that means out of this 24, this would have to be around like close to 100, right? That means 100 outbounds need to be done. You assign, how much can a setter do per day? Or typically, what does that look like? Is the pass-through rate 25%? Then we can convert into more closers or more setters. But these 100 dials, this should be done easily. Have at least that list, that bucket to dial. And then for outbounds, then outbounds converting into the 100, we need 23 outbounds that are set. So with outbounds, we go into that lead to set, which is 100. Also, if you're optimizing for a 25% pass-through rate, let's say it's like also at a 25%, which is ideal, then these are the two statistics that you'll need to know in order to figure out the outbounds, the triages, how many you need in total. So these are totals to get the 23, the 24, and then from the paid apps, which comes from the ad spend, all of this should be adding up to 92 at least, right? If you want to have a chance of hitting that 100K per month in new cash collected. All this is very important, but taking a look at where these come from, opt-ins, apps, booked, you can see everything in terms of what you actually need to know to make these key lever plays. Now, even if you want to make a little bit more, right? Let's say average cash collected, we even increase this up to 11K. You can do this by just having better financing options, or just rather than splitting it up into big payment chunks, you can just cut it down, figure out how you can do a bigger chunk at the beginning and then smaller chunks at the end, right? If they want to split a 4Pay of 10K into 2.5, 2.5, 2.5K, then you want to see, hey, sales process, can I optimize this to collect actually 5K up front, right? And the rest collected after the remaining months. So there's many ways of doing this. You can either tackle it from a marketing perspective, where you don't pass leads that are bad and can't do average cash collected of $11,000 up front, or if you want to do things such as improving the sales process to make sure that your sales reps can actually convert into higher cash collected. And this varies per closer as well. I've seen closers who, have like a 90% CCs versus some people who are below 50. So you want to optimize your calendar as well to figure out, hey, are the quality leads that I'm tagging in the CRM, are they coming to the closer that is collecting 90% cash collected per deal? Or is it going to somebody else, right? Obviously that wouldn't be optimal. But if you can just use this data, let's say you increase it to 11K, then average cash collected becomes less book calls. Let's say you keep the same book calls, you keep the same calls on the calendar, then this also increases to 11.10, right? Which just sends 10 sales. And this increases not just from a 10x ROAS, but now it's 11x ROAS, right? So there's key small things that you can do. Close rate can be increased. Show percentage can also be increased. Product, we don't want to mess with that right now for this case, but everything you see here should be all the statistics, all the things that you should be doing on a daily basis, and just messing with the numbers, seeing what converts. Let's say we have a 15% lead to show, right? Then we would need a lot more in terms of outbounds. We would need like 130 total calls. So do we need to increase the setter team for that if the lead to set percentage is lower? Or do we just need to hire A quality setters, right? Is the pass-through leads, are the triages done well, right? How many are getting passed on to the next? The pass-through rate is important as well, because we want to see, based on where you can convert each one to each one, it funnels down, right? As long as you can have a wider funnel rather than a narrower funnel, then there's going to be more sales calls that are going to be held This is going to increase to like 70, and then obviously this will funnel down into a higher cash collected per new lead. So this is everything that I would tackle in terms of the holistic CRM, leads opting in, what the percentages are, and then what that actually funnels down into, and the numbers that you need to know to actually get things like a 10x ROAS. So from everything I've broken down here, you can see how effectively you can reach a 10x ROAS without spending an extra dime on ads. So I appreciate your time. Thank you. Follow along if you achieved anything from this, and I hope to see you in the next. If you want somebody who can predictably do this for you, there's a booking link in the description. You can apply to work with me. I'll probably take a look at your whole breakdown of your funnel, your systems, and everything to see if it actually works and it makes sense to work together. So take a look, see if you need this. For sure, if you can get somebody else to do this, if you want some extra help and see how I've proven to do the same thing with many other offers, then take a look at that. Appreciate it. Thank you very much, and have a great day.